your host, Nick Toka. Today is May 14th, 2025, episode 117, and markets are pulling back a little bit today, but they are doing quite a bit better if we look at the monthly gains compared to certainly the traditional markets. I would call this the traditional market. New accounts. And I would call the crypto market something completely different. We are pumping, baby, for the month. A little down today, but pumping and looking forward to good things in the near future. On today's show, Google search volume for Bitcoin is flat as BTC nears all-time highs. Where are the retail investors, damn it? Bitcoin dominance slips in 3-day feedback loop, raising odds of short-term altcoin rotation. And Bitcoin bulls aim for new all-time highs by next week as capital inflows soar. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka, and as the traditional markets get pounded for the month, I guess they're sitting about sideways for the month, really, ever since the Liberation Day. Bitcoin's way up, and they're starting to take hold of some of the gold market share. Gold market cap is going down. Bitcoin market cap is going up. We're going to get into some stories, and we're going to find out where the retail investors are, what's taking them so long, what the hell's going on, and we're going to look at the future of Bitcoin and some other smaller coins as well, like XRP, which I normally don't talk about, and Doge, because I also expect big things for them coming up. Let's check out some Bitcoin technical analysis right now to get started. Bitcoin down 0.5%, $103,000. Ethereum down 2% for the day, 2,587. Solana down 2%, $175. XRP down 0.25%, $2.54. Doge down 1.5% at 23 cents. Crypto bubbles for the day. Let's check out the hourly. So we see for the hour, almost everything's in the green. So we might be seeing a bit of a turnaround overnight here. For the day, we've got, I'd call it about 60-40 mix. We've got Onchachi. What the hell is this? Lunchcoin on Believe. Probably meme coin. Up 30,000% for the month. Damn. And they just kind of showed up on the radar now, but up to 190th in market cap. This is the kind of coin I was talking about yesterday. Here today, gone tomorrow, right? So some people are sitting pretty at 30,000% for the month. For the week, 8,000%. And for the day, 30%. Zooming out to the weekly, we've got, this same coin, Lunch Coin on Believe, up 8,000%. Nero, up 195%. Peanut the Squirrel, up 136%. ETHFi, up 126%. Quite a few up. Everything up for the week except for two Dex and Cheel, whatever Cheel is. And zooming out to the monthly, we've got, as mentioned, this Launch Coin on Believe up 30,000%. Nero up 260%. Syrup up 166%. Deep Book up 160%. AI1Z making a comeback up 154%. Interesting. Looking at the Bitcoin hash rate, we're currently very close to our all-time high hash rate. All-time high is 920 something billion terahash. Right now we're at 866 billion terahash per second. Taking a look, let's see if we can refresh this, if it's still under construction. There we go. She is up. Looking at the M2 global money supply. This is the 21 global central banks, and it's tracking their money supply increase. And zooming into the final, as we see here, Bitcoin's tracking the price of this very, very closely over a decade. And zooming in, we see that, again, it continues to track it very closely. We see the head and shoulders pattern here in the M2 in the pink, and the head and shoulders pattern here in the Bitcoin. And then we also see a very, very close pattern right here. If we follow this closely, this is looking like an 80% or 80 degree incline here. The biddy is not quite that. It's about 45%. So perhaps very soon we're going to see this huge parabolic climb starting to go up on the biddy price. Coin market cap. Let's take a look at cryptocurrencies here. It seems to have refreshed on us. We've got Bitcoin market cap at $2,043 billion, Ethereum $311 billion, XRP $148 billion, Solana $91 billion, Doge $35 billion, Cardano $28 billion, Tron $26 billion, Sui $13 billion, Chainlink $11 billion, and AVAX $10.2 billion bucks. Looking at the total market cap, it's currently $3.26 trillion, with Bitcoin holding 62.6% of that, Ethereum 9.5%, XRP 4.5%, and Solana is off the list today, but they were on the list yesterday, BNB at 2.8%. So what we're seeing is some of the money that was in Bitcoin now is filtering, as it usually does, into the alts, including Ethereum and some altcoins. I gave a good example yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, check out yesterday's show about where the money goes when Bitcoin pumps and how the alts kind of pump. The money first goes into Bitcoin, then it flows a bit into Ethereum after the pump. Then it flows down to the altcoins, and then finally the shit and the ultra shit coins. And you kind of see this sequential pump, first in Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then a bunch of the alts after that. Crypto Fear and Greed Index, we are currently sitting at 70 in greed. Yesterday was 73 in greed, 65 in greed last week. There's 1,064 days until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028. With 153,242 blocks until the next halving. Total market cap by asset worldwide, we've got gold down again at $21.4 trillion, Microsoft $3.3 trillion, Nvidia $3.3, Apple $3.1, Amazon $2.2 trillion, Bitcoin $2.055 trillion, Google $2 trillion, silver $1.8 trillion, Saudi Aramco $1.6 trillion, Meta $1.6 trillion. Also, you can currently get 971 satoshis for one fiat US dollar. Current US national debt is sitting at 36,850 billion, which equals to 107,639 per U.S. citizen, or 323,050 per U.S. taxpayer. Department of Government Efficiency in the States has saved $431 billion, which equals to $3,844 per taxpayer, going on a running total of approximately $1,000 a month per taxpayer. So some big savings going on, despite the burning of the Tesla dealerships by the Democrats and all that. They should open their eyes a little bit and see that money's actually flowing into their pockets and not out of their pockets with this Doge. They just look for any excuse to complain about Trump, I suppose. It's just sore losers. This is the way it is. Google search volumes for Bitcoin is flat right now as Bitcoin nears all-time highs. Where are these retail investors? Retail investors have been the biggest net sellers of Bitcoin through 2025, but this might change over once Bitcoin hits new price highs. Bitcoin retail investors are known for entering the market during periods of euphoria, typically sought after strong monthly gains or new all-time high. This time is no different, with Bitcoin approaching 104,000 on May 14th, while general public interest and retail activity continue to lag. Analysts estimate that in 2025, retail investors were the largest net sellers. People, what are you doing selling your frickin' bitty? While institutions were the main buyers. But if historical patterns hold true, a surge in retail appetite is likely to occur about 1 week after Bitcoin surpasses the all-time high of $109,500. So here's a chart of this. I'm trying to zoom in as much as possible. That's all we're going to get. But it's showing a change in Bitcoin ownership in 2025. Businesses up 157,000%. Funds and ETFs up 50,000%. This is actually holdings of Bitcoin, so it's not. Yeah, it is 1,000 Bitcoin. 157,000 Bitcoin businesses have picked up. 50,000 Bitcoin funds and ETFs. Other, whatever that is, 21,000. Probably pension funds, this kind of thing. Governments, 19,000. But check out the individuals, boy. 247,000 of net sales of Bitcoin. The people who need the Bitcoin the most are dumping the thing. They're listening to the FUD. I can't tell you enough how the mainstream media is pulling lies over everybody's eyes. They do it with elections, they do it with government, and they're doing it with Bitcoin. I know people always say, do you always believe something you read on the internet or never believe something you see on the internet? However, I feel like as a collective, maybe a few people get stuff wrong, right? A few people are lying, a few people give misinformation, maybe by mistake, some do it on purpose. But as a collective, I feel like you're going to get more accurate, honest news from the web than you are with the mainstream media these days. 247,000 Bitcoin sold by individuals in 2025. According to Rivers estimates, though, individual investors sold a total of 247,000 Bitcoin throughout 2025, equivalent to $23 billion based on average price during the period. Meanwhile, Michael Saylor's strategy accounted for 77% of the 157,000 Bitcoin acquired by businesses this year. Retail interest for Bitcoin near 6-month lows. Current search trends for the term Bitcoin match levels seen in June 2024 when Bitcoin was trading around 66,000 after 3 months of failing to break above 73. Likewise, the Coinbase app now ranks 15 in the U.S. App Store with the finance category, comparable to its 20th place ranking in June 2025 based on data from the block. In mobile apps ranking, Google search trends for Bitcoin can serve as proxies for retail interest demand. Last peaked in November 2024 when the Coinbase app jumped from the 40th to the 5th position in under 2 weeks. At the same time, search activity spiked to its highest level in over 2 years. The retail excitement coincided with Bitcoin breaking its previous all-time high of 73,500 on November 6th, with excitement peaking 9 days later. Although retail traders missed most of the gains from the 67,000 level a month earlier, the bullish trend persisted as Bitcoin surged to 107,000 by mid-December 2024. buying Bitcoin near an all-time high is a suboptimal strategy, but this is the strategy that the retail investors seem to do. A comparable spike in retail demand occurred on March 9th, 2024, when the Coinbase app rose to the fourth most downloaded in the U.S. finance category, up from 35th place 2 weeks earlier. At the same time, Google search interest for Bitcoin hit its highest level in 20 months, roughly 6 days after Bitcoin surpassed its prior record daily close of 68,000. The retail interest jump in March 2024 followed a 56% price increase in just 30 days, with the Bitcoin climbing from 43,000 to 68,000. In contrast to the November 2024 breakout, the following 7 months saw erratic price movements, with Bitcoin struggling to maintain levels above $70,000. Retail traders tend to react to previous all-time highs, but this often means they miss out on most of the upside. This is what I always talk about on these shows, folks. You want to buy on the low. You want it when everybody is selling and saying, oh, Bitcoin's dead. This is when you want to get in. When the price is low, ideally mid-cycle, the opposite side of the cycle, right? So the cycle peak, we're expecting that it's going to come in October, November of this year, as it has historically, the year after the halving, approximately October, November. And then almost a year and 2 months after that cycle peak is the cycle low. This is when you want to be buying the shit. This is when you're going to get the best deal, and you can just buy in, sit back on the couch, wait 2-3 years, and so far anyway, historically, you sit back on the couch and you're making some big ducats, more than what you would make, working for most people, for sure. The net outflows from retail investors, while Bitcoin trades 5.5% below all-time high, reinforce the Bitcoin search trends and Coinbase app rankings, supporting the idea that retail demand emerges roughly 1 week after the previous all-time high is surpassed. So we can expect that when we surpass the all-time high again this time around, suddenly, it looks like 1 week later, the retail investors are going to hop back in. It's just interesting. It's very psychological. The savvy investors, the big corporations, are buying when the price is low. And we too on this channel are buying when the price is low. And most retail investors hear about the euphoria of Bitcoin new all-time high, and I'm going to buy it. I don't want to miss the boat. I have FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm going to buy it now. It's at an all-time high, right? Maybe there's nothing sexy about buying at an all-time low, right? Or the 4-year low. Maybe that's it. Maybe people just like sexy, and this is what they need. But smart, savvy, educated, financially literate individuals are buying both Bitcoin or altcoins or traditional market offerings, or quite honestly, even real estate. Let's also add gold, silver. They're buying this stuff on the low. They're buying when nobody else wants this. They know that these things are not going away forever, right? It's just a lull. It's a market lull. Every day in the markets, the price goes up. The next day, the price goes down. The next day, the price goes up, then down, then up, then down. But if you look at historically, let's bring up the S&P 500 all-time chart. So this is just here, max. Can we go to max? It's only bringing us for a few days. 90-year historical chart. All right, so let's bring this up on the screen. And if you look at this, what do you see? I see that the price goes up, right? Yeah, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and etc., 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 etc. But when looking at the overall picture, the price is up. So the idea is and this is starting in, what is this, 1928, where the S&P 500 was 325 was the total index price, and of course now we're at, what is it, 6,000, yeah, just over 6,000, around 59 to 61, 6,200. So if all you did was put a few bucks in the S&P many years ago, you would be up, right? Here we're talking from 1928 to 1968, so 30, 40 years. You're up. You've tripled your money. When you're talking from the beginning until now, divide 300 into 6,000, whatever that equals to, 2,000%, right? And this is the S&P 500. This is what moves much slower than the crypto industry. When it comes to the biddy, you can expect, or if we go by historical standards, you can expect, 100% gains almost per year on average. Way surpassing, the conservative S&P 500, that's for sure. So look at it on a long-term scope. If you take that approach and you don't try and day trade this stuff, you just say, you know what, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin now and I'm going to hold it because it's going up forever, Laura, as Michael Saylor said. It will, if you hold through the cycles, 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. It might seem like a long time, but before you know it, 8 years have already passed, right? Like, think back 8 years ago. Time flies, right? So buying and holding is definitely a great strategy. Buying and averaging in on a weekly basis or a monthly basis is an excellent approach. You kind of can treat it the way you would a traditional investment. And if you're going to take that approach, you definitely want to stick with, the big three, right? Bitcoin, Solana, XRP. I would even stick to, Bitcoin, right? Your big chunk. And of course, you want to try and make some huge gains on the other ones. We've got XRP looking like the ETF is going to get approved coming up soon. So, now that they're, BlackRock said, I'm not going to create an ETF while this lawsuit's going on with the SEC, between SEC and XRP. Well, now the lawsuit's settled. It was I think a $3 billion lawsuit. And then they came out and said, okay, yeah, well, we'll settle for $50 million, right? So a $2.95 billion discount. So now that lawsuit's all done. So now it's looking very likely that the SEC is going to approve a ETF and very likely a BlackRock ETF. They had a private meeting with the SEC about a week ago that we covered. I'm sure they were discussing something like that in there. So look at what happened with the Bitcoin when the ETFs were approved. The price jumped. So I wouldn't be surprised if a similar kind of thing happens with XRP. The price is still, look, relatively speaking, at $2.30. It's cheap. Another coin that's maybe undervalued right now is Doge, right? Everybody's forgotten about Doge at 23 cents, right? It was at like frickin' 10 cents not so long ago. And it was also over $1 last all-time last cycle peak. So, you're looking at 4x easy, more than likely. Potentially, it could go to $2 or $4. You don't know. XRP, everybody's talking minimum $10 XRP. Other people are talking $100 XRP, right? So it's been in that lawsuit for a long, long time. It is not a stable coin, but for a very long time you may as well have called it a stable coin because the price hardly ever moved. But it is one of the coins that the world governments have had discussions with, the Ripple founders there, and I'm sure they have bought and own a lot of this stuff, and it's a pretty quick transactional currency. So maybe this is kind of what they want to choose for their CDBC, right? For example, or for other things, or for quicker trades around the world. Ultimately, I feel like Bitcoin is going to be the reserve currency. If we ever get to that, it could be something like XRP will be this, daily transaction. You make some transactions, you buy goods, you sell goods, and even on the corporate side, you buy an XRP, you sell an XRP. You make trades overseas with XRP, but when the final closing happens, the end of day closure on the banks, make no mistake, that final end of day closing for international trades globally is likely going to be in Bitcoin. So all the banks, all the big players have lots and lots of Bitcoin already. And if you think that they just got into this recently, folks, you got another thing coming. They've been buying Bitcoin long before the ETFs. They've been buying, I was reading, since, the 2018, 2015. Universities in the States have had a, Bitcoin reserve on the low for many, many years, like a decade. So they don't always come public with it, because if they do, the price is going to go up, and then they'll have to buy it at a high price instead of this low under the radar price, what we were talking about yesterday. Even Michael Saylor, he puts out his Saylor tracker Sundays, but by then, word is, from what I read, he's already bought everything, and he's not buying it. He's not, okay, I'm going to buy 50,000 Bitcoin. He's not just buy a bid for 50,000 Bitcoin. He's buying very small amounts throughout the weekend, because it kind of goes under the radar, and the smaller amounts that he buys, the less that the Bitcoin price gets actually affected. If he suddenly bought 50,000 or 100,000 Bitcoin, or whatever, 10,000, even, the price is going to spike. So he keeps it on the low. He's probably buying in the hundreds at a time. But by the end of it, after 3 days, for example, every hour of buying a couple hundred Bitcoins, he ends up with his, 10,000 new Bitcoins kind of thing. So right now, Bitcoin dominance has slipped to a 3-day feedback loop, raising odds of short-term altcoin rotation. This is what I was saying. The money first goes into the biddy, and then the money starts flowing downward into the shit coins after that, because people gain this confidence. Hey, I did well with Bitcoin. Now I'm going to go into the higher risk coins and hope to make huge gains. Like the stuff that you hear on the news, teenagers making 20,000, 50,000%, turning $300 into, 2 million or something, right? So as of Saturday, May 10th, dominance had fallen from Bitcoin to 60%. We just looked at it. We look at it every day. It has fallen over 2% over the past couple days. BTCD measured the market capitalization of Bitcoin using the current Bitcoin price relative to the total market capitalization of all crypto assets. The steep decline in BTC from 62% to 60% between May 7 and May 10th lined up perfectly with the 3-day window of notable price spikes and outsized altcoin heavy liquidations mentioned earlier in the newsletter. Historically, a pullback of this size in BTC.D over such a short window has often preceded brief alt season windows as traders rotate into higher beta assets. Macro sentiment may also be playing a role in the recent decline in BTCD. On May 8th, U.S.-China trade deal negotiations reportedly made material progress toward a partial tariff rollback. This likely eased safe haven demand for Bitcoin and encouraged risk-on positioning in altcoins. As traders chase momentum in ETH, Total 3, and meme perp names, fresh capital flowed into non-Bitcoin assets, widening the dominance gap. In effect, the dominance slide reflects a classic feedback loop where Bitcoin led the initial rally, short liquidations migrated into altcoins, altcoin price spikes boosted their share of the total market cap, thus resulting in Bitcoin falling in terms of market cap, reinforcing the case for an alt season push as long tail assets briefly outperform. Whether this evolves into sustained alt season will hinge on Bitcoin. A rebound would suggest last week's dominance dip was merely a liquidation driven detour rather than a regime shift. Of course, when we go back into the previous all-time high, the Bitcoin dominance was as low as the mid-50s. I think it got down to 52 at some point. So people start taking their money out of the biddy and they start going into these serious risk-on assets because they think that instead of making, a 20% gain on Bitcoin or a 5%, perhaps they could make a huge run like we see in this, that coin that came up and now it's disappeared, right? Like this weekly coin, it's completely disappeared. That one we were looking at before, it was called, right? It was up for the month, 30,000%. And where is it all of a sudden? Interesting. That was only 5 minutes ago. So this is what you get with the altcoins. They're here today, gone tomorrow. Some of the memes, for example, are bigger than, some shitcoin that is here for a few minutes and pumps for 2 days or pumps for 45 minutes and then gets the rug pulled with all the founders running the price up. And then when everybody starts putting their money in, the founders who own, 25, 50% of it, they pull the rug out from everybody, and they don't give a shit who they're taking, which grandmother they're taking the money from, right? Like, trust me. So there's, some sentiment with some of these things. We all know the story behind Peanut the squirrel, the world's most famous squirrel, and then they basically, I think it was in New York, they took the poor thing and ended up euthanizing it because they claimed that it bit them, right? Well, of course, you take it away from its home, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to get aggressive. So, the other one that's done a great job is Pudgy Penguins. We don't see it on the list here, but it came in after Peanut the Squirrel, and it did very well. And, the guy made it he's a very smart guy running this thing, and he even has, you go to Walmart, you can probably find Pudgy Penguin little squishy stuffed animals, right? He didn't just take it into a meme coin, he made an actual product out of it. So what you're seeing with this meme coin stuff is, first you're going to see stuff on, TikTok, right? Memes that take off on TikTok. If you see a lot of this stuff on TikTok, Cool Guy is another one. You see a lot of this on TikTok. Everybody starts pushing this new cool meme, and then suddenly the meme coin comes out. These are the ones that typically do the best, or if there's some kind of sentimental reason behind it as well. But these are also the coins that very often are here today, gone tomorrow. And when you watch a lot of these shows, or when you hear about some pumps and, hey, this is the next big thing, make no mistake, when the price has gone up And these people who are marketing it take their money. They don't give a shit about you guys. It's every man for themselves when the pump comes up. Okay, so even now, some great coins, when we talk about memes, when we talk about altcoins, I don't necessarily go for these ultra memes. Sure, I've got some Doge, I've got some pudgy penguins. I don't have Peanut. It looks like maybe I should have. It's up 200% for the month. But, I go for more structured things that actually have utility. Some of the ones that I'm in on here, I've got Superverse, a big gaming infrastructure coin. Very big on this. AVAX, big on this too. Also gaming. Echelon Prime, something that hasn't really come through. It seems to be, it's one of those lower tier ones, right? So if we get Superverse, that's pumping hard, the next day or 2 days later, we'll get Echelon Prime pumping hard. Huge pumps, like we're talking 50% in a day. But then it's also going to take a dump after that. And it's kind of been very consistent with like that. So it's either you've got to take the approach where you're going to be in long term and until the cycle peak, until this November kind of timeline, or you're going to try and do the pump and dump, at which point you might buy into it, but no matter what, the online community tells you, hey, we're in this together, all this shit, no one's going to come on here and say, it's time to sell. No, they're going to be selling their own stuff. Every single person on these shows, whether it's traditional financial markets, whether it's YouTube, Rumble, you name it, X, everybody's trying to do the same thing. And you know what that is? They are trying to make money. So if you're going to go especially into these altcoins, and I feel like it's not too late for the alts. Okay, I feel like there's still a big push coming, going into the similar kind of thing where first the money's going to go into Bitcoin, then it's going to start flowing into, Ethereum and on its way down. I feel like there's still time. Really, what you want to be looking at is the Ethereum all-time high. So we haven't yet hit the Ethereum all-time high. The Ethereum all-time high is still, we're talking 2021 is still the Ethereum all-time high. If we go into it here, and let's zoom out to here, the all-time high is still here. So what happened is money flowed. If we kind of look at the timeline here, so let's look at this peak, right? May 14th, 2021. Now let's check Bitcoin. So May 14th, 2021. And here we've got April 13th, 2021. So this is what I'm saying. First, the money flows into Bitcoin. Then the money starts flowing into Ethereum. Then the money flows downward. If we go into some of the alts, we'll see the same kind of thing where we said May 2021. So let's go down the list in anything here. Pepe didn't exist, but here, gaming, right? This is the number one gaming infrastructure. Everything is going to follow this bit tensor in the gaming infrastructure, TAO, right? TAO. So, up 17%, it looks like, for the day. But if we go, does it go as far back? No, it goes till 2023. Let's see if we can find something so we can see this example, because we saw April 2021 Bitcoin peak. Then we saw after that Ethereum peaked in May, a month later. And let's check anything. This is, not my cup of tea, and I wouldn't call it another infrastructure coin. This has been around for some time. So let's check the peaks here. And this is peaking 2022, right? Even here, October. Maybe it faked out its peak here when Bitcoin was pumping in April. But then this was, a lot of people, this is also what you want to stay away from, is this fake peak, right? A lot of people sold, I'm sure, here, for example. And maybe they did okay because, they freaked out and they didn't want to get down here, and I understand. But what really happened is they missed out the huge peaks here. Again, traditionally, maybe we've got to go to page 2 in this thing to really find what I'm trying to show here. Decentraland's definitely been around for a long time. So here we've got May. So this was peaking along with Ethereum. So a month after the Bitcoin push. But it never really hit its cycle peak until November, which is the same as Bitcoin, I suppose. But still, Bitcoin, it was like November 10th or November 1st. And here we've got a cycle peak of November 28th. So the money first, again, I guess I'm going to reiterate, and I haven't actually had it on the right screen. So let's quickly go back through that. So we had Bitcoin, the good old biddy, first hitting its peak. Let's just go back to 21 to make things easy. So we've got Bitcoin, there it was, right? Up April 13th is right on the peak here. April 13th. Then a month later, we had Ethereum in May 13th getting to its first real peak here a month later. And then some of the other currencies, we were talking even later than that, right? A couple weeks after that. Money starts to flow downhill. But in terms of altcoin, this is what we want to be watching. Right? When money starts going into Ethereum, leaving Bitcoin, going into Ethereum, this is when the alts are going to pump. Okay. We're looking for the Ethereum all-time high, and that's also going to indicate for us the all-time high of these shit coins. They're all going to follow the Ethereum. Right now, I feel like the industries that I would recommend are gaming and gaming infrastructure. Those few coins I recommended there a minute ago. The AI coins, I'm big on. So AI infrastructure. So basically what the other AI coins are going to back it on. And this like AI 1Z thing, there's no utility, right? Graphane is one that I'm big at. That's so cheap. It's like 10 cents. The all-time high is 65 cents. And I wouldn't be surprised if it even 10x's from the 65 cents when we hit the cycle peak. So it's still relatively cheap. And it's effectively what, other AI coins are going to be using to develop their AI. Also with the gaming infrastructure, the ones I mentioned there, especially I know Superverse for sure, that BitTensor. What else do I have in here? They're going to be building their infrastructures on top of that. Like every game is going to be using has to go through super, right? Every game is going to be using AVAX, Avalanche. So this is kind of what you want to look at. RWA is another industry, real world assets. I hold some injective, it's called, and real world assets. I'm looking at those three alt industries, right? I'm looking at the gaming infrastructure, I'm looking at the AI infrastructure, and I'm looking at real world assets, RWA, which are basically the coming wave that we're going to see over the actual utility behind crypto, right? Where you keep hearing how every real estate deal, every insurance deal, every business deal is going to be done on the back of the blockchain. Well, these are the things that are going to be facilitating those transactions. Lawyer agreements, smart contracts, this kind of stuff. You can't look at today. I had this discussion with my wife just today, and I was talking about self-driving cars, and she said, I would never get into a self-driving car. And I said, okay, well, 15 years ago, you also said that you would never, ever buy anything over the internet, and now it seems there's a package every 2 days on our doorstep, right? So, and she's like, oh yeah, you make a point. So this is the same kind of situation. We're now in the introductory stage, even the Bitcoin, even the crypto introductory stage. Over the next coming years, with this big, they keep talking about AI takeovers, AI, it's gonna happen. And once the money starts flowing into that, then Bitcoin and the blockchain has a big part of this. They're interrelated. So you can't look at what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, the same as what I showed you in the S&P all-time chart from 1925, whenever it was, until now. Yeah, the market goes up, the market goes down every day. Like if we zoom in on this thing, look, every coin, right? Ethereum, you'd think Ethereum is relatively stable. Look, the market went up, the market went down, the market went up, the market went down. We go to 7 days, the market went up, the market went down. Every single day the stuff's changing. But when you look at the macro, the long-term influence that the blockchain has on society, there's going to be a big trend toward this stuff. So ideally for me, I've got a long-term approach. Sure, I've got my little shit coins that, I'd love to make, 20,000% on. And I've got one little account that I day trade on it, right? I try to buy on the low. I wait for the price to go up. I wait for the price, take the volatile coins. I use Pengu, the Pudgy Penguins for that, and I use Graphane, and basically they move up and down quite a bit. So it's these day trades. I'll buy it here, like at the bottom. The price will go up in a day. I'll try and sell near the top. Then I'll wait for it to go down, whether it takes a day or 2 days or 3 days. The price will go. It's so cyclical that the price basically is just doing this every day. So it's almost like a no-brainer. But again, I'm not dropping my life savings on that shit. If I'm going to put my real life savings anywhere, it's going to be in Bitcoin. To a smaller extent, XRP and Solana. And then, the big questionable plays, smaller amounts, are going to go into things that still have big market caps, things that are on this list of the top, really top 20, right? I'm not going to go into sheet 5 or, down here and click, this shit, 98, and think that this is stable money, right? Like they still have, look, market cap, 13 million, but I ain't going there. I don't care if it's up 47%. Like, if I'm making a play on some of this shit down here, it is a very, very temporary play. These coins will go up, and these coins will immediately go down, and they might actually end up going to zero, and you lost everything you've got. So, sure, it's nice to put a play on some of these things in hopes that you make it big, but do it with 1% of your money, 2% of your money, like money that you can afford to lose and not, go broke. Extra money, side money, hustle money that you can afford to lose. When it comes to your real cash, I don't want to see anybody out there losing any kind of money. I'll be honest, right? This is supposed to be a money-making venture. It's supposed to be fun, and that's the kind of situation I'm trying to push on everybody and propose. So we've gone through the story, and then we've banged it off to its furthest possible extents. The money goes into the biddy, then the money starts flowing out of the Bitcoin into Ethereum, into the shit coins, and it's almost like this sequential, you can see it happening, and we saw it there with the example of just Bitcoin and then Ethereum following kind of a little bit, 3 weeks behind it. Now, the feature story of today: Bitcoin bulls aim for new all-time highs by next week as capital inflows soar. Bitcoin continues to show strong bullish momentum as fresh capital inflows signal potential new price highs in the coming week. In an ex-post, Glassnode reported that Bitcoin's realized cap, which measures the total value of Bitcoin based on the price at which each coin last moved, grew by $30 billion since April 20th, growing at a 3% monthly rate in May. The current realized cap is $900 billion. Lots of money flowing into the biddy. Though slower than the 8% spike in late 2024 when Bitcoin hit 93,000, this growth reflects steady investor confidence and new capital entering the market. Adding to the optimism, Glassnode revealed a significant shift in market dynamics. The 7-day simple moving average of Bitcoin spot volume delta flipped positive, peaking over near $5 billion on May 13th. This aggressive net spot buyer demand, seen only a few times this year, has, as highlighted, confirms strong spot market conviction behind Bitcoin's recent push above 100,000 psychological resistance. The surge in spot buying pressure suggests institutional and retail investors drive the rally, not just leverage trading. Despite the slower realized capital growth compared to late 2024, $50 billion spike, the current market sentiment remains positive. So we see this is for the year of 2025, and it's only kind of spiked to a positive volume just a little bit. Now, considering the price is reaching an all-time high, and considering the retail investors are going to likely jump in after that, as they always do, we talked about that earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a little bit more of a prolonged positive inflow. I'd really like to see a chart of the 2020 and 2021 cycle peak to see how prolonged these inflows are compared to the outflows that we see here. Will Bitcoin gain 10% by next week? Bitcoin has shown a steady consolidation and expansion trend since forming a bottom around 74,500 in early April. Over the past 4 weeks, a pattern has emerged where each time Bitcoin hits a key level, it moves sideways before breaking out to a higher range. This pattern has repeated twice, with a third consolidation currently underway. And this is what we were talking about yesterday. The Bitcoin price goes up, Then it kind of just sits around and goes sideways for quite some time before making the next level. So here we've got a couple examples, right? The price pumps, then it's kind of going to go sideways, then it pumps, then it goes sideways, maybe down a little bit, then it pumps, then it's going to go sideways, maybe down a little bit. This is not just a phenomenon we're seeing this market cycle. We've seen it historically as well. Each phase has followed a similar setup, forming a higher upper and lower ranges. The bottom range is typically tested at least once before Bitcoin pushes to new highs. The relative strength index has completed its price action, reaching overbought levels during new highs and dropping to around 50 during sideways movement. Currently, Bitcoin is consolidating between an upper range of 105.7 and a lower range of 100,600. If the pattern holds, Bitcoin might retest the 100,000 to 102 level before potentially breaking above 110,000. However, a bearish invalidation could occur if prices fall below 102 and fail to recover swiftly. And so far, we have seen that it has been recovering pretty swiftly. And, once we go back to the M2 money supply, this is a great indicator, and we know that trailing 60 to 90 days, so 2 to 3 months later, Bitcoin effectively is doing pretty much exactly what the M2 money supply historically does. And we can quickly take a look back at that again. So M2 is in pink and Bitcoin price is in white. So M2 is the total money supply, and this is based on 21 of the global central banks. So the M2 is a gauge. It's a numeric gauge of how much extra money is being put into whatever country. So in this case, they're taking 21 central banks, the biggest ones from around the world. How much extra money are they printing? Bottom line. And we see it's very closely correlated. And then if we jump, we zoom into this thing, we see that the latest jump in the M2 is straight freaking up, like as vertical as you can get. And so for my portfolio, I'm thinking that this jump here is going to end up a little more prolonged as we see this, and in fact might end up in this kind of banana zone, straight up vertical. This is the hope. Of course, we all hope that the Bitcoin price is going to, pump, and we all want our friends and neighbors to make money. Let's not lie. Remember, folks, there are $900 trillion of assets around the world. So go out there and get your share of them. Money is abundant. It's time that's scarce. So spend your time wisely. Read books, listen to books. I have some great books. I encourage everybody to read these things or listen to them. They're 100% free, and I've got them in the comments of the show. I leave them in there in hopes that everybody gives these things a listen. I've got the YouTube free version, which, listen to it in the car. You're driving back and forth from work. That way you're doing two things at once. That's what I do. Instead of wasting my time listening to the same playlist over and over and over, for multiple years now, I just started reading books, and it's amazing how fast you can go through these books and expand your mind, have new information, and give yourself the tools to be able to deal with these, real life financial perplexities, right? Like, give yourself the financial literacy to be able to be a cut above, to know what to do with money, to know how to make your money work for you instead of working for the bank, for example, right? Always spend less money than what you earn. If you suddenly start making more money, start saving more money. Don't start spending more money, right? That doesn't make sense. You want to always be in the positive. If you're young, it's a great time to start investing. Start investing in your late teens, start investing early 20s, and hopefully you retire when you're 40 or 45. If you've got a great idea, start right away with it. Even if you're not ready, start on that idea, and even if you fail, you'll have the fulfillment that at least you tried. It's better to try and fail than to not try at all. Hopefully you found this stream enjoyable, folks. I thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to me. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to have over 500 subscribers by the end of this year, and it would be fantastic if you join me. I'll continue to scour the internet for the best and most pertinent stories on crypto and Bitcoin every day, so you don't have to, and keep giving you financial literacy. I'll keep adding these books, free books, into my comments, and even under there in the comments also, in the body of the show, down below in the show notes, I have financial tips, 7 or 8 tips on things that you can do to make yourself rich, or at least more wealthy. Even the richest people in the world are going to be doing these steps, right? So hopefully you subscribe. Please do share, like, and comment as well. It helps with the algorithm. And we will see you on the next show, folks. Thanks so much for joining. Have a great night.